Hello, I'm Philip Stoten. I'm here at Apex 2018. I'm joined by John Mitchell, CEO of IPC. Great to see you. Thanks for stopping by. And
great to be here.
Thank you for your keynote this morning. I actually really enjoyed it. Just before we touch on the success of the show here, let's touch a little bit on that whole thing of STEM education. One of the big challenges is actually getting kids interested in STEM at all, rather than wanting to go into, marketing or lawyer or something like that. How do you get them focused on that? I know there are some programs around robotics and different programs, but we need much more of that.
We do. There's a stigma out there that thinks manufacturing is dirty, and nothing could be further from the truth. So actually taking advantage of things like Manufacturing Day, where you get kids out into the plant and they're going, wow, this is actually filled with computers and technology. This is really an interesting thing. Actually, at the show here tomorrow, we'll have 70 students, high school students, touring it, taking some lectures from people in the industry, really helping them understand that STEM is actually manufacturing as well, and especially in the electronics industry, it's the perfect place for them to be. But you're right, it's a challenge because, frankly, I got an engineering degree. It's not easy, and so you can, for the same 4-year degree, go to business perhaps. Yeah. A lot easier path, about the same salary.
Yeah,
and so that's a challenge.
Yeah, but it is interesting to see that. I think, again, a lot of people aren't aware of, statistically, engineers are actually pretty well paid in the US.
They are.
So there's a lot of good opportunity. The other thing you touched on a little bit was kind of inclusion and diversity. And I was at CES earlier this year. They seem to be scrambling to get a few more female keynote speakers and stuff. It's something we just need to keep working on, I guess.
Definitely. You have the whole advent of millennials. One of the stats I quoted in the thing is that by 2020, which is like right around the corner, 50% of all management positions will be held by millennials. So if you haven't figured out how to work with millennials, you have a problem because you're missing out on a great workforce that's available to you. Similar with women, the rise, there's more and more women in the workforce every day, and by and large, the studies are showing they're better workers than the men. So they're going to put me out of work, but that's okay. Yeah. So if your environment isn't conducive to hiring millennials, hiring females, then you're going to be second tier. Yeah. And you need to adjust your culture so you can attract those people to your jobs.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. I worked with a few companies where they build design and development teams, and for them it's really important to have that diversity in there. And you talked about the way there's a different thought process, not just from millennials to boomers, but also from men to women. That's needed when you're in a creative environment.
Definitely. There's a great book. It's not new. It's called The Wisdom of Crowds by Surowiecki. Recommend it highly to anyone. It's like the top 100 business books of all time. But the answer is, it's not experts that make the best decisions. It's experts with a diverse group that make a best decision. And so there's your spoiler alert if you're going to read the book.
Yeah, but actually that brings me to another point. You talk about experts with great groups around them and building teams and using diversity to make stuff happen. What you've done here with CFX Showcase has been super impressive, and a credit to Dave Bergman and the team all around him that have done that. But for me, that's been a really good example of what IPC should be doing and can do really, really well. That must have been a joy for you to see come to fruition.
It was great. And honestly, I think it was actually a board member that was at Productronica and said, hey, we saw this demo. Can you do something like this over at Apex? And Dave said, I don't know, let me see, and reached out to the community, and several people were like, I don't know if I can pull that off, but once you get a few going, and then all of a sudden, well, if they're going to do it, I need to be involved too. And the development kit was so simple that there were some people literally just 2 weeks before the show were able to get back into the list and able to put together a demo. So it's great the standard's not even done. This is just a demonstration to get excitement, to show the potential of what this can work, and it's 20 plus various companies around the show, and we have basically a virtual virtual work floor or factory running on the show here, so you can see the data. So very exciting. Glad to see what's happening. When the standard comes out, we'll be excited to see many different software companies putting out solutions to help facilitate it, and internal companies will do it internally as well.
Yeah, and what I love there is you're providing those building blocks, those digital building blocks that allow people to get on with the real work and add value. I keep saying to these guys, we can talk about CFX this week, but I'll be glad when it's just taken for granted.
Well, and CFX doesn't give you features. It's a framework. and then everybody can pour in their special sauce. I like to refer to it like cell phones. So if you and I have an iPhone, I can send you an iMessage, but if you have a Samsung, I can't. Well, that's an extra feature the iPhone community gets to enjoy. But we can still talk on the phone and send regular SMS messages because those are part of the standard protocol. So we're building a standard protocol, a transport protocol. Everybody else can still put their special sauce on top of it.
Yeah, and then you get apps and stuff on top of that. And for me, that's the key for these guys, is to leverage their domain knowledge in that environment. Next year's show is a little bit earlier.
It is a little bit earlier. End of January, I believe. We're going to be here.
Yeah.
We're slaves to the convention center. When the space is available, we take it. Ideally, if I could have my druthers, it'd be the second week of March every year. But I don't have my druthers.
There you go. You can't always do that. Anything special that we can expect? Any changes coming up for the next show, for the next 12 months with IPC?
Oh, all kinds of good stuff. Workforce development is an area that we're going to be focusing on a lot. We're partnering with a lot of our certification centers in launching some new initiatives on that front and trying to provide better intelligence. We're reaching out to our membership and asking their HR professionals to get involved with our JTA committee, our Job Task Analysis Committee, so that we're building programs and a set of skill sets that they'll be able to transfer to their employees or potential employees so we can fill all those open jobs that they have.
Okay. Last question, we talked a little bit about machine-to-machine communication, people-to-people communication is really important. What I've seen this week is associations really working nicely and playing nicely together, relationships with INEMI, with SEMI, with the others. That gives you a lot more leverage and connects you to a lot more of the value chain.
So Peter Cleveland is Vice President of Intel. He's on my board of directors, and he's a government relations executive and lives in DC. One of his comments is, John, associations need to work more together. My MBA was based on collaboration as opposed to competition. We need to work together to make things better for the industry faster as opposed to saying, oh, this is mine, that is, I can't play in that area. We need to find ways, because honestly there's across various associations, because we have many of the same members, and where there's those opportunities, we should be working together to provide things out there.
Yeah, and for me, when I look at them, they have their little roles, their little positions, the bits that they're very good at, and there are bits that you can just do much better as a team.
Exactly.
So great to see all that collaboration. John, thanks for stopping by. Always a pleasure to chat. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Phil.